Currently, animal production relies a lot on the use of antibiotics for various reasons. And apart from controlling diseases in these animals, they're also being used to promote growth in these animals, which optimizes production efficiency at a farm level. There are regulations which control antibiotic residues in meat products where a withdrawal period should be observed to prevent chemical residues in these food products. However, the use of antibiotics in animals and in humans also drives resistance in these bacteria. And these bacteria may be present in these food products. We are also aware of people that are working with these animals and working in food processing sectors that may be transmitting resistant bacteria potentially into these food products and to humans. So we're looking at studies to actually assess which way the resistance is moving between humans and animals and the environment.
So there's enough documented cases where animals have actually become infected with resistant bacteria from humans. The perception always was that it's a one-way direction. And of course then from animals again, it can land up in the food chain, and then the food chain will then be a risk for humans. But we must hasten to add, this is really food that was not cooked properly. So if you buy your meat products from reputable sources and you prepare it properly, there's no problem. The problem through the food chain is if you would buy it, what is referred to as bushmeat, when you buy it off the street or somewhere, someone selling it under a tree and there's been no control in the slaughter of those animals, that's when there is a problem. So transmission through the food chain is not nearly as prominent as some people would like to believe, but it certainly exists.
In South Africa, we have two systems. We have what we call the commercial system and the communal system. And the majority of communal farmers, they share the same space. Whereas the commercial system, each farmer will have his own space, as it were, where he is able to then implement animal health. So the challenge for commercial farmers as far as antimicrobial use is different from the challenges that is experienced by communal farmers. So what we will see with commercial farmers is that they will have access to a veterinarian or a technical person who will be able to assist them in how to deal with animal health issues on the farm. Whereas communal farmers do not have access to a veterinarian or a technical person to assist in the majority of cases. Therefore, they totally depend on over-the-counter, we call them over-the-counter medications, including over-the-counter antimicrobials. So the management and the control of antimicrobials at that level, it's very difficult because they have access to antibiotics that are available at corporations, at different markets where they can be able to access them and be able to use them. So those are two separate challenges that we are currently facing.
The intention is to try and place all antibiotics under veterinary oversight. That simply means that all antibiotics must either be prescribed or dispensed by veterinarians or paraveterinarians. For people who are not familiar with the term paraveterinarian, these are also professionals working in the domain of animal health, and they are referred to as animal health technicians. So in the new regulations of the Stock Remedies Act, there will be an effort to authorize certain animal health technicians to be able to dispense limited numbers of antibiotics. The idea of this is not to leave the farmers in the deep rural areas in the lurch, that they still have access, but that this uncontrolled free use of antibiotics stop, because this we cannot continue with. That's a worldwide phenomenon. And we know in the northern hemisphere, all antibiotics are entirely under veterinary oversight.
The research that we are focusing on will look at the differences in antibiotic use between commercial as well as emerging farmers, and will identify specific risks among the sectors. And we also will be taking an approach, what we call farm to fork. So we will look at these animals from the source of origin all the way through to access by consumers. And we will evaluate the risks along the pathway. Through the modeling, we will be able to identify which specific risk factors are important and critical between the sectors. And through this, we hope to influence emerging farmers by assisting them with technical advice in how they can actually curb their antibiotic use.
I think there needs to be a concerted effort to look at antimicrobial resistance as a One Health issue, particularly because in most cases, you'll find that farmers don't see the relationship between antimicrobial resistance that they see in their own cattle and the antimicrobial resistance that they see in the human population. So then it becomes important for us to do training or education to bring the two together using a One Health approach, because we already know that there's a link between antimicrobial resistance that is observed in humans and antimicrobial use practices that is seen in veterinary medicine. So it is very difficult for us to convince the farmers only on the basis that antimicrobial resistance is important only to their livestock. But I think if we were to take a One Health approach and look at the importance of practice in veterinary medicine, how it relates to human health. For example, in a situation where you can be able to explain to the farmer that if you use these particular antibiotics inappropriately, the end result could be, if you have an infection from the same animal, you might end up with an infection that we are unable to treat, mainly as a result of the injudicious use that the farmer is undertaking on his farm.
The control of AMR, in its most simple definition, is we should all use less antibiotics. That's in its simplest definition. But of course, it is a huge problem that requires huge input. And in South Africa, we're lucky that we approach the problem in this country through a One Health approach. Now, for someone that's not familiar with the One Health concept, it simply says the following: that the health of humans, animals, and the environment are interconnected. So if you want to impact on a health problem in any of those domains, you should do it in an interdisciplinary way. And that's what we're doing in South Africa.
So my work currently is focused on what the specific risks might be. At this point, we're basically just guessing how antibiotic use in animals might directly affect people, and I'm hoping to quantify those risks, but also using these projects as a platform to upskill emerging farmers, because they play a critical role in food security, job creation, and poverty alleviation, which are some of the sustainable development goals which we're working towards globally to achieving. So we're hoping to make a dent in that through our antimicrobial resistance research.
The regular citizens should be very concerned about the phenomenon of antibiotic resistance, because it is one of the three biggest risks to mankind. It's in the same league as climate change and overpopulation. Published figures from reputable sources have shown that currently, globally, about 750,000 people die annually from the effects of antibiotic resistance. 750,000. That is 3 times more than people dying from the catastrophic effects of climate change. And it's predicted that if we don't change our behavior globally, this figure will rise to 10 million people annually by 2050. So we have every reason to be concerned, and no one must be under any wrong impression about the importance of this. It is the biggest One Health issue on the planet.